Hey, muted. I was muted. Here I am. I'm back.
We're back.
It's Friday. Bring it in with me and Coach Thorpe. How are you, Coach?
I am fantastic. I do want to confess to something, though.
Yeah.
By the way, I gotta confess that I had hunkered down last night to just soak it all in. All these games going on. I had the Miami game on. I had 3 games on watching. And then I got a phone because I'm in preparation for today. I want to make sure I was really up to speed. And then I got a call from an old player of mine who's 37 now, just had twins, and wanted to check in on like what the hell's going on in my life. How do you deal with 4-month-old twins? And then my daughter came in and she wanted to just hang, and we ended up watching an animated movie together and ate brownies. And I'm checking my phone a little bit, but I asked her not to do that when I'm hanging with her. So I tried not to do it. And so I caught up pretty good this morning, but this is a fun time to be an NBA fan. Yeah. It maybe the most fun final week that I can ever remember since I've covered the sport in 2007 when I joined ESPN.
I will say for sure as a media member, but definitely thinking back as a fan, like I cannot remember the last week of the season being this exciting because we already know where the seedings are. Everybody else is. People are resting. The teams who are terrible are, finishing their tank jobs, but seeding's still up. No, the 1 seed hasn't been clinched yet in either conference. And we got 2 games left. So, I mean, that's huge. That is big time. And I'm sure for your ex-player, you had lots of advice, being in that you have twins yourself. So you have lots of advice to dole out about what to expect.
I am extremely pleased to say that this young man, who's a brilliant kid, he wasn't a very good player, but he wasn't a pro. He's a high school kid that I coached. He's a doctor of pharmacy. He runs the VA hospital here. Prescribes medicine. Super smart, super disciplined, he and his wife. But yes, we had a couple little gems that they hadn't thought about yet because they're only 4 months in. But he definitely had the question of like, am I ever? But keep in mind, I didn't have kids during COVID. Like, nobody could hold their children.
Yeah.
Right. If there's a risk, they're vaccinated, of course. But even if your friends are vaccinated, your parents, it's tough to be a newborn parent right now with COVID. But yeah, we gave him some guidance over the years. I said, call me back more when your kids start playing sports. Like, I'll be way smarter when it comes to that. Otherwise, call my wife. She's probably the smarter one. All right, we have a lot to get to, and I want to hear your video.
We do. Let's start with the video, Judy. In 2017, Michael Porter Jr. blew people's minds. A 6'10" high school scoring machine. He was due to be one of the very highest picks in the 2018 draft, until a back injury ruined his college play at Missouri. He entered the draft while still rehabbing from surgery and fell all the way to the Denver Nuggets at 14. There was a feeling out period with glimpses of star potential. As our coach Thorpe likes to say, running around with no clue what he was doing. But the Nuggets held on to him, despite tantalizing trade offers. And it's paying off. Here in 2021, the Nuggets are rolling, even with Jamal Murray injured. Is Michael Porter Jr. emerging as a legit number 2 on a title contender? MPJ has earned the trust of head coach Mike Malone, his teammates, and is displaying all NBA level talent. Over his last dozen games, his true shooting percentage is 70%. He's become the team's second leading scorer, he's playing within the offense, and is reading the game. And while you won't mistake him for an all-NBA defender, he's not the liability he was last year. He's number 4 among Nuggets starters in defensive rating and number 3 in defensive win shares. He can still make mistakes and get lost at times, but he's working. Defense is about knowing your assignments and the game plan, but it's also about giving a shit.
I welcome it. I'm trying to be a star player myself. So guarding the opposite team's best players, that's part of it. I don't want to be like one of those star players that hides from the other team's best players.
Nikola Jokic is almost certainly the MVP. With a 22-year-old 6'10" scoring machine next to him, it's easy to see the Nuggets being relevant for a long time. MPJ has only played in 110 regular season games and is still improving. As are the Nuggets. They made it to the second round 2 years ago and the conference finals last season. So you know what comes next. Look, I'm just saying.
That was great, man.
All fair. Everyone knows I'm in the tank for MPJ because my basketball love language is tall dudes who can shoot. But There definitely is stuff I've seen better in his game. And I know we talked about this a little bit, Coach. Defensively, he is giving effort on that end and is fighting through screens. Again, at times he can still get lost, right? As you always say, that the coach Hubie Brown loves to say, set screens for one purpose and make deep defenders think, right? So when you have multiple things coming at you, that can still cause him a little bit of paralysis, but he's working, he's fighting, he's knowing. And Mike Malone, as you know, is someone who, if he's struggling on defense, he'll yank him, but he's really earned his trust by studying on defense. And he's showing that he wants to commit on that end. So I'm liking what I'm seeing from MPJ.
So the idea that, you know, he makes mistakes sometimes, I want to make sure that you really embrace this idea, Jarod, as an MPJ fan. Everybody does, right? Everybody does. They all mess up. The metrics will tell us more or less. It's still a bit of a black box, but it's getting better. That he's not perfect. Gobert makes mistakes, and he's the best defender in the world. In fact, he made an egregious mistake that cost them a win, which might cost him a 1 seed. Think about that. And he's still the best. They all make mistakes. The more you make, the lower your rating is typically. But I love how you put it. He cares. It matters. I didn't know that video, that interview where he said he wants to guard the other team's best. That's big, man. Mm-hmm. Like if he becomes a real all-star, like the Nuggets are going to be the best team in the league.
Yeah. I mean, the offense is already there. We know that. I mean, he's just like, you know, it's funny. I was talking in that video, someone commented on our TrueHoop YouTube page and said, if he develops a handle, he's Kevin Durant because he already shoots better than him. And I'm like, all right, let's calm down with that. Right? Like, Kevin Durant's an all-timer. Let's calm down with all that noise.
He's never going to be Kevin Durant. Right. I mean, stop
with that. Yeah. But let him develop into what he's going to be at that size with being able to score. And if he can be
Paul Pierce.
I mean, but with D, right? We play with good D. Like, I mean, he's special. And with, of course, Jokic, who's the best passing big man since, I don't know, Sabonis maybe. This is incredible. I'm loving what I'm seeing out of Denver. And then Jamal Murray can be even though he may be your 2 in like moxie or like creating your own shot kind of thing, he's your 3, right? I mean, that's a nice top 3 you have there in Denver.
I think so. We might get later on. Henry and I wrote about this piece, and I'll get to it in one of my Jazz comments. But I really like their future a ton. Yeah, I think Jamal is a very. We're going to talk about difference between playoffs and regular season too. We know what he can do in the playoffs.
We've seen it.
Yeah, so I'm a fan of where Denver's going. That's for sure. I'm not sure Ball will ever get there, although he had a double-double the other day.
He did. I mean, I love Bull too. I don't know that with the way they're playing right now, Bull needs time on the court, and we can't put him out there in these high-pressure games. It's just not. So he may get axed out just because of the development timeline doesn't seem to line up. And last thing I'll say about MPJ, you know, people were clamoring for after the bubble, trade him for Bradley Beal. I think the Nuggets are glad they didn't trade him for Bradley Beal, right? Like, because Beal. This may be as good as Beal's ever going to be right now. Whereas MPJ, he's 22. We have no idea how good this guy can get.
And you're going to be able to hold on to him for a while. So the last thing I'll say about MPJ is super tall, super athletic, super skilled shooter. Yeah, that plays. Right? Even if he never gets ahead for the game, which he's getting one, right. That plays. It was just the head part of it we didn't know. Well, yeah, he's caring. He's doing little things better. It shows up. What are they, 11-4 since Murray went down? Mm-hmm. That's pretty darn good. All right, let's play Jazz, my man. Let's play Jazz. So my first thing I watched before I hung out with my daughter, and yes, we did make – my daughter made fudge brownies, guys, for those you asking. They were quite good. I'm watching the Heat play. I have everything on mute because I don't like hearing these announcers typically. And but I had to put the mute off and listen to the volume because Udonis Haslem. Right, came in the game, and I've said it before. You know, he's the first pro I ever worked with. He wasn't in the NBA when I got him. He made it that fall. He comes in the game. Fans are going crazy. Pat Riley standing ovation. It was lovely to see. I was there for his very first game, so this is his last home game, I think. And then he made a great basket. Took a charge, like, all right, let's go. And then he got ejected. Caleb wrote some of the OG. That's in the document, Caleb. I'm like, the OG lives. Did you see exactly what he said to Dwight Howard?
I did see one way where he said, "Watch your effing mouth."
No, he said, "I'm going to punch you in your fucking mouth."
Oh, that's what he said. Okay.
And that's exactly what he did. Now, he didn't try to punch him and knock him out. UD is not a man to just talk. He is going to back up what he's going to say. And I've always said the same thing. You get a battle royal of all 450 NBA players. I'm not saying he's always going to be the last one standing. He'll be in the final two. He is a tough motherfucker. I've told the story before when he was living in France for a year and he was they had a Muslim problem there. This was right after this was the year after 9/11. Yeah, this was 02, the 02-03 season. And I'm like, well, how'd you handle it? And he said, I just brought my ship with me, and I didn't know what a ship was. Just thought it was funny. Like I would not be going into nightclubs if I thought I might get stabbed or attacked. He just brought a ship with him. That's who he is. Yeah. Also brilliant and beautiful. He's one of my favorite people ever. And it was a good reminder that, there's lots of ways to find ways to stick to a team. Like for him, when I first started working with him, we talked about rebounds and defense will get on the team. Make jumpers will get you paid. That was how we built it. And I knew we could rebound and play defense, and he learned that. But to stick around 17 seasons, because we started this in summer of 03, is a testament to knowledge of the game, professionalism. Like I told you, he kicked a guy out of my gym for being late. Udonis does not fuck around. And every player, like UD should speak to rookies every year until he literally is 90 years old. Because he carries with him a gravitas, a realness that all these young players didn't understand. Udonis soaked every bit of talent he had. And if he had been 10 years later, he would have learned to shoot the 3 too. Because I taught him to shoot the 18-footer, because that's all you could do at power forward. Well, now it would have been the 24-footer for sure. So, yeah, it was great to see him play one last time. I'm not sure we'll see him again, but he went out his way, right? He went out his way.
I was watching that game because Philly started to get real. I mean, they were getting mad at themselves because they were getting their ass kicked, number one.
Yeah.
And so they started getting chippy, and I was like, yeah, I don't know if you want to really like poke at UD like this. So that's, maybe Tyler Hero, mess around with him. Like the UD, like, I don't know if that's bright, guys. But, and they got their ass whooped, right? Like that's just kind of.
Yeah, I think it was a point to what he was doing, Jarod. I don't think he won in the game thinking, I'm going to get myself ejected in 3 minutes. I just think it was a mindset. I mean, did you see Udonis go off on his team during the NBA Finals last year? Mm-hmm. Like when he took over a timeout? Like I could see him thinking before the game, like they have won 3 in a row at that point. Hey, we now is it. This is it. I got to bring this intensity, and he showed him what intensity looks like. So we'll see what happens from here.
They are obviously locked into the playoffs, so no play-in for Miami. And I'm telling you right now, Milwaukee wants no part of them in round 1. I don't care what Milwaukee says about how well they're playing. We got Drew Holiday now. I don't care, because that mindset of like we're tough and the Heat certainly aren't afraid of anybody. Even though they may be better than them, they're not scared of any of those top teams, and they are happy to go. I mean, you see they blew out Philly last night. Who's the 1 seed? So
Spoelstra gets his teams better every year. He's a hell of a coach. All right, you're up.
All right, time for my weekly rant on the capitalist machine. So on the Jacobin this week, an article published, Corporate CEOs Won the Pandemic. And it talked basically about how the average pay of multimillionaire CEOs went up 29%, while the average frontline worker was hit with a 2% wage cut. Folks, think about that. On the aggregate per dollar basis, whom do you think is more impacted? Someone who got a 29% raise, who's already a multimillionaire, or someone who makes $15 an hour getting a 2% wage cut? And you got people like your boy Turkey Neck McConnell out here in the Senate talking about, we gotta cut these unemployment benefits because people got to go back to work. They're staying at home. No, Mitch, the reason why they're staying at home is because it costs more to go to work because they get paid so less than it is to stay at home, right? So you're thinking about, the image they want to put out there and conjure up for you is the same lines that Republicans trotted out in the 80s about welfare queens and all this stuff. No. It's because I have to pay for public transportation to get to work and pay for childcare. Well, if I'm making $8 an hour, that doesn't make any sense. It costs me money to work. Why would I do that? So big corporations, why don't you pay your workers actual living wages instead of giving your CEOs more millions of dollars so they can buy their second, third, fourth, and fifth beach homes. And that's all I have to say about the capitalist machine today.
There's nothing to add about that. That's as perfectly stated as you can get. Yeah, it's a pretty sickening situation. I'm glad we're focused a lot on basketball because I kind of get depressed. As I told you off air, I'm looking at real estate out of the country for the first time because my wife and I don't have, there's not a lot of places we want to live in America right now. All right. So as we talked about at the start, this is a fun time to be an NBA fan. There's so many variables. You have you ever played highlight before, Jarod?
No.
Not played highlight. Gone to a highlight fronton?
No.
So highlight, you have 9 groups, 9 teams, not 9 individuals playing, and you bet on the numbers. And it's just, so let's say you bet on, I used to box the quinella, which was numbers 2, 3, and 7 I would do. So you'd root for number 2 to beat number 1, then you wanted number 2 maybe to beat number 3, and now you got 2 wins. It's a whole thing. It's all numbers. That's what we have here. We basically have highlight right now, which is the gambling sport. The only reason why anyone went to highlight was to gamble. That's what we have in the NBA right now. There's so many different factors. Almost nothing is locked in. I'm not sure anything's locked in, actually. I mean, not even a 1 seed in either place is locked in, right?
Nope, not yet.
Yeah, we know more or less you might be locked into a couple spots.
Yeah.
But we don't know who's in the play-in. We know like the Spurs, the Warriors, we know they've made it. What seed, we don't know. This is really fun. I'm not going to let my daughter hijack me again. I'm going to watch games all weekend. I'm writing about it for Monday morning to see kind of, what I think the playing games, what will happen. This is what you said it off air. This is what the NBA wanted. This is exactly what they dreamed of. I still would like some tweaks to it. I've said that before, yep. And we wrote about it the other day, but this is what we want, is we want teams trying to win games. Just as you said to me, not at the expense of health, right? Mm-hmm. So I read an article today about all the different potential ways teams could tank to create the matchup that they want. I'm not convinced they will. I'm really not. I know people said Mike Malone did that with Denver last year. To me, it's a slippery slope, and you're not even sure it'll work. Because you're not sure the other team's going to end up losing what you want or winning.
Yep.
I'd rather just try to win these games. Don't overdo it and get guys playing too much. But we should go into the playing games with a ton of momentum. That's exciting for NBA fans.
100%. And, Adam Silver right now in the NBA's office is in Midtown Manhattan. He's in the big conference room in the center of the building. And he's like Maximus in the arena in Gladiator. Are you not entertained? This is what he's saying, everybody, right? Like, this is his big vision. It's worked. And we are certainly entertained in these last few games of the regular season. And I love the fact that this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, they're playing all the games in blocks, right? All of them start at like 1 or 5 or whatever. And so so really you're going to be playing the same time as you want to know what the other team's doing. And I'm going to watch closely to see if teams look up to scoreboard watch to see, what's so-and-so doing? What are they doing? To kind of keep track. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I wonder if they will. I know golfers like to talk about, they don't like to look at the scoreboard on Sundays. The leaderboard, right? They just want to focus on playing the best golf they can until they get to a point where now they got to think strategy. So you're up 3 with 2 to play. I don't got to go for the green in 2 on a par 5. I can just keep it safe. And your caddy might even check for you. I think we'll see the same thing. I know in Europe in soccer, the Premier League, that's what they do when my team was in there, because that protects the integrity of every game, right? You go in that last game and you already know you're in or out, you can do something differently. Well, you don't know. So you got to try to play straight up. Yeah, it'll be fun.
All right, Judy, next clip. The beard is back.
Let's go.
Long you were out and how little experience you have coming back from lengthy layoffs. Are you surprised at how quickly it kind of came back to you and you were back in the flow of things?
Not really, not to like brag or anything, but I'm really good at this game. I study the game. I'm very unselfish. I take the game and I play it the right way every single night. So I don't try to do anything that I can't do or anything that doesn't benefit our team. And if that mindset right there keeps me in a really good place.
And how long in that in his interview session, someone asked him about, six man role. Like, how does it feel coming off the bench? He's like, I'm pretty good at that. I won an award for that. So, because James Harden is a former 6 man of the year as well as an MVP. This guy's, and we've talked about him before, he's on the short list, right? One of the 3, 4, 5 best NFL players on planet Earth. And I think we talk about this because the Houston years, for whatever reason, skew how we think about, not we, you and I, coach, but how the masses think about James Harden. It's just pound, ISO. Okay, well, that's what they did to work to win all the games they won and push the KD Warriors to 7 games, right? Like, but this is a guy who has led the league in assists multiple times, right? Who is clear. If you watch him play, he is one of those artists and guards, right? Like Jalen Rose is a term. He calls it a vanguard, right? Like, yeah, I can score 40 if I have to, but if you watch him play, he loves to play make and get everybody involved. And on a team like this, you don't got to score for. Sometimes, all right, if I need to tonight, because the other 2 guys ain't, I can do it. But he's very happy to play, make, rebound, do what's necessary to get everyone involved. And you can see it, coach. When you watch the Nets, it's so interesting to see their big 3 and the differences about them, right? And the way I look at it is how the role players respond. It isn't that the role players don't respond well when they play with KD and Kyrie. They do. They just play much differently with James because James is someone who gets them involved from a playmaking standpoint. He knows how to read them cutting and right. It's a very different way because of the 3 of them, James is the best playmaker, right? And you can see the guys like Claxton and Brown, like they're like, oh man, we have the rhythm with James because he knows how to find us. We know what angle to look at. And it's a different style of play. And, basketball is just better when James Harden's back.
Yeah, he's got the supercomputer brain. He's I talk a lot about the scientist and the artist. He's both. KD's both. These guys there's a reason why they're the best of the best of the best. And so when we talk about, when I said that MPJ will never be Kevin Durant, it's because the idea that he can be both the scientist and the artist is just hard to believe. There's just so few of them. Mm-hmm. And well, KD is that guy. KD is very much an artist, but also a brilliant scientist on the court. Harden's the same. He's the game is, he said it perfectly. He's pretty good at this game. He's talking like someone that plays a video game. Because in some ways it's like a video game to him. He's controlling everything.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. It'll be interesting. All right, because we'll talk more about it later. So this is not really appropriate for Harden, but Henry and I took a look last couple of days at just this final weekend. And so scroll down, Judy, if you don't mind, please. I am guilty. Even a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I wrote about Westbrook and Chris Paul have the worst contracts. This was two seasons ago, and then OKC did amazing with Chris Paul, and now we've got Russell Westbrook, who people here it is right there, Judy. Who'd you call Russell Westbrook is having this resurgence. I'm not sure you call it a resurgence, just another surge in a sense. He didn't drop. Look at Derrick Rose. Like, these are guys that we wrote off, and I wrote them off. And I didn't write them off as if to say they were terrible. I really was just simply saying they're not worth their contract, and I probably was wrong. And the one thing, and I should know better, the one thing that separates the best from everyone else, if you look beyond athleticism and mind and all of that, is just that desire, that competitive desire to win. And they have it, right? Chris Paul's always been fake. He looks like the sweet, funny guy, the cute guy in the commercial. He's the killer. And I mean that in the best way, not the worst way.
He's the killer.
He just wants to beat you, right? And will cheat in a good way to win. And that's how these guys are. Like Derrick Rose, I don't know that I really was affected when he got emotional, when he started playing again. Was it a couple years ago? Mm-hmm. And it should have impacted me more. He loves the game. I watched Derrick Rose a lot his rookie year because I was helping a bunch of guys with the Bulls. And he showed up one morning in sunglasses, like as a rookie. he was just all, hey, I'm Derrick Rose. That stuff goes away. Like it really does. And that's not an easy fall to be the superstar. Right? How old was he when he got the MVP?
22.
Yeah, that's what I thought. 22. I mean, that's a big fall. That's a crash. And for him to be so good now on a playoff team, like I think I'm going to root for the Knicks more than anyone in the postseason, really because of Derrick Rose. I always love Julius Randle, but I think I'm going to root for Derrick Rose.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of those guys. And it's a reminder of how good they were, that they're still so relevant now.
Yep.
So when you're way up high and you fall just a little bit, you're still really damn good.
Yep.
And they just didn't fall as much as me thought they probably would. And I think it's great. And the last thing I'll say on that is, as we have advances in medicine, and I'm not talking about performance-enhancing drugs, I don't know anything about it. I know that they exist and all of that, so I'm not an expert in any of it. But there's lots of other things you can do to make sure your body can stay relevant longer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're not smoking cigarettes. They're not doing a lot of things that they did back in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And so maybe we'll see, maybe the LeBron story, we'll see more of that. So the guys that are 32, 33 now, the Steph Currys, are doing this at 38, 39. Great. I'm all for that. I don't care. The best players, let them stay on the court. I don't care if they're 22 or 38. Doesn't matter. Just be good.
Yeah, I think on that point, I think we're seeing that with how you look at LeBron, Curry, and even someone like Durant, right? LeBron's still playing good basketball, even though he's, coming off the high ankle sprain now into his mid to late 30s, right? Which, a million years ago, you wouldn't think that. Right. Steph Curry has gotten stronger in his 30s, right? And he's if you look, even, I'm not saying he's playing better than his double MVP seasons.
Close.
But if you look at his body, he is bigger and stronger now than he was those 2 years.
Yeah.
True. And Durant, the Achilles, that was the kiss of death, right? It was over. You're never coming back. And I mean, he's shooting career highs in effective field goal and shooting percentage from somebody who was already an elite effective. Like, it's like, how does that work? Right. So I think we're starting to see the advantages of modern medicine. All right. My last one is the NBA announced that there is a new award they're giving out. And it is in honor of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as a social justice champion award. And it's going to be awarded to the player that's really showing the most and doing the most as it relates to initiatives in change, as it relates to social justice, race relations, things of that nature. We talked about Kareem on this show during our greatest of all time debates and all different things. And I mentioned him repeatedly. I've said this before. There's only 3 men in the history of basketball, in my opinion, who can lay claim to the greatest player of all time. It's Cap, it's LeBron, and it's Michael Jordan. That's it. Nobody else in the conversation. Everybody, it's like you're looking at the club. They are at the most exclusive part of the club. Everybody else, no, you're nowhere near. I don't care. You can be in the outer rooms, cool, hang out. It's these 3 dudes. If you look at just everything they've accomplished, but more so than even what he's done as a basketball player, what he's done as a human being and as a man. And that is what elevated to a whole different GOAT status. The work he did in the 60s with Jim Brown, Muhammad Ali, and other players, Bill Russell, players of his era, and the work he still continues to do today to promote change. It's incredible. I mean, this is a man who's lived through some really difficult times in his life, right? His house was burned down, like the racial animus. I mean, he's in his late 70s now, and he's seen a lot in this world. When I say a lot, I don't mean like some casual, like as the great comedian Chris Rock said, not some casual I can't catch a cab in New York City racism. No, like I'm talking like real racism. And there's no better fitting person to have an award named after him than Kareem. I mean, to be honest, he should have more things named after him in the NBA, but different discussion for a different day.
Yeah, that's my cat, man. He's my captain. I was a Laker fan, so I respect him so much. I have a few things saved on my office DVR. Not a lot, because you can find it all the time anywhere. But the documentary about him, I have.
Minority of One.
Yeah, it's just there's probably the first book I ever read about a basketball player, written by a basketball, was his book, Giant Steps. First book, yeah. So I agree with everything you said. I love him. All right, let's talk postseason.
Yes, sir.
So Henry was kind enough to give us an update just on where the teams are at. It would take us forever to describe all the different possible scenarios that we have. Tell me, Jarod, we're gonna do our first and second team NBA later, and we have a few other things to talk about. But like when you look at the West standings, and you look at the both sides, where do your eyes go to? What are your thoughts? I don't care if you're a New Yorker, like this. Where are you going?
So in the West, I'm looking at that 2 seed, right? Because first of all, who's going to get it, right? So Phoenix won last night in a crazy game against Portland that I didn't think they were going to win late after the Devin Booker turnover.
Yeah.
But the reason why I look at that is because of the potential who you're going to get in the first round of the playoffs. So we know the Lakers and the Warriors are likely going to be a 7-8 play-in, right? So the winner of that automatically goes to the 7 seed. Congratulations, Phoenix. You have played so well and you were the 2nd seed. You get LeBron James and Anthony Davis in round 1. That's just so unfair, right? Like, I busted my ass to work hard and I get these dudes, or I get Steph Curry in round 1. Though if I'm Phoenix, maybe you probably want Steph Curry because you're like, look, we know he can do it. The rest of these dudes, we'll take our chances. I don't know what Phoenix does with the size of LeBron and Anthony Davis like that. As much as I like Saric and Ayton's a good young, Ayton's young, but Anthony Davis is going to kill that poor kid. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what they're going to do. So I feel for Phoenix there. And then I look at the bottom. I look at Grizzlies Spurs. Look, I'm in the tank for Jaren Jackson Jr. and John Morant. I love those young kids down in Memphis.
They've won 4 straight.
I'm not saying they're going to beat whoever the 1 seed is. All I'm saying is they are a team that has the kind of moxie that even though they're neophytes, they don't know shit about the playoffs. They're not going to be afraid going into any game, and they're going to battle, work hard, and do their thing. And I think this will be good for them. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I'm really looking forward to seeing Memphis play in the actual playoffs. And I think they will get out of the play-in and play in the first round of the playoffs. Well,
so they still can get to the 8th spot.
Yeah.
And play for the 7th spot, right?
They could.
Yeah.
No. So whoever wins the 7-8 matchup is automatically.
Oh, they're automatically. You're right.
Yeah.
They could get to the 8th spot.
They can get to 8, yes.
And then they could play for 7.
Well,
right? The 7 seed.
No, because right now 7 and 8 would play each other. The winner of that is automatically 7.
Right? Can't they tie the Warriors for that 8th?
Oh, you mean the regular season record wise?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Right. So they could get up to 7 and play potentially Phoenix. It could be Utah too.
Yes.
It's. First of all, it's just good for their growth as a franchise. If you believe like I do that Ja's destined for greatness, you got to start losing playoff series before you win them. Yep. You got to lose, and as a lower seed, you're going to lose probably. Now, if Utah's missing Conley and Mitchell, then maybe they could win, but they're probably not going to be missing. Conley, I bet, is back tonight. Donovan will be fine by the time we start. He won't be at. Well, it's like James Harden said, "I'm pretty good at this game, so he can miss a long time and be great." But Donovan Mitchell ain't no James Harden.
Right.
Yeah, he's very good, but he is not the level. He's, when I say very good, like all NBA level talented now. There's other good players who won't make it, and he was hurt, but he is not James Harden. So I do think there's going to be a growth period for him to kind of get back in the swing of things. And I haven't seen a playoff schedule that tells me they're going to have a couple, 3 days in between games. I don't know what it's going to be.
I don't know either, Coach. And honestly, we talked about this before. Because of the schedule, and remember, we have the Olympics this summer in Tokyo. They want to get the finals done by whatever that date is in July. So I don't know that we're going to have a ton of 2-day breaks in between. I hope we do, because these guys need it. It might just be like how it was a regular season. You get 1 day off in between. And that day also travel day. Oh, that's the worst.
Right. So I'm looking at, I don't know. Obviously I try to see as big picture as I can. I'm disappointed the Celtics and Jaylen Brown. I thought they could have really done some damage. If Bradley Beal recovers from a hamstring issue, which is an issue,
yep.
That's not going to be a fun team for people to play. I don't think the Hornets will do much. They're not sure about Hayward being back. Milwaukee and the Clippers are the two teams that win my most disappointing. I keep waiting for them to really turn a corner and start cruising, and they just aren't doing it. They're just not doing it. And I don't know what it means, because it might mean nothing. We've seen it with LeBron in the past. Maybe it'll be the same with Giannis and with Kawhi and Paul George. But I just keep kind of leaning towards now, well, if none of these other teams really find their stride, if Donovan Mitchell can get even 90%, like Utah has destroyed people. I looked at a bunch of lineups today. 5-man lineups, 4-man lineups, 3-man lineups, 2-man lineups. It's a bunch of Utah ones. All top 3, top 4, top 1, top 2, top 5 across the board. Not all of them have Rudy Gobert even in them. They really beat the league up. And if it wasn't for these 2 injuries late, it would be even more impressive. So I would like everyone to get healthy. We'll see what happens. Who would you favor? Do you think the Sixers and the Nets are in any? You don't think they have any concern at all, do you?
I don't. I don't think they're worried about anybody. Look, Philly is so they love their defense down there right now. I'm talking to some people around Philly. They just love the way they guard. My concern is like yours is I love the way they guard. Do you score enough? Yeah. That's what worries me about them. Yeah, I know about Embiid, and he's fine. You're not going to stop him. He's going to get his 30 and 12 or whatever and kill people. Who's that secondary perimeter creator? Okay, Tobias, maybe sometimes he's pretty good. We know Ben's limitations. Now that you're looking at some of that game last night, right? So when you're switching in the pick and roll and you're playing Philly, I saw a couple of times where Miami on the switch, the player would either go under the screen, right? Because Ben's not going to shoot, but then sort of run up really close to him. I'm like, why? He ain't going to shoot that, because the closer you get to him, he's going to drive right by you. And I'm seeing Ben Simmons until he shows me, and I'm saying he's got to make 15 in a row before I'm like, all right, I believe you now. Every time I'm going under, and I'm like, go ahead, shoot. I'm sagging every time. Now I know there's challenges with that, right? Because now you're opening up passing lanes for him, and he's a brilliant and gifted passer.
Yes.
Right? So that, and like you always say, Coach, steady diet, right? You can't do just one thing. You got to mix it, because then it'll kill you and pick you apart setting guys up. But it's that's something to watch with them. I don't love the perimeter scoring, right? And in the playoffs, we know you need guys on the wings who can initiate, and they just don't have enough of those dudes.
I wrote a couple weeks ago about how I thought Ben Simmons should try to channel, Dwayne Wade. But if you study Dwayne Wade the way I did when he was playing, and then afterwards, Dwayne had the 15-foot jumper contested. He could make that shot a decent amount when you couldn't get a shot any other way. And I don't know that Ben has ever really shown much of a proclivity to do that. That's a concern for me for Philly. The Nets have 3 dudes that can do that. I almost put Kyrie on my second team All NBA.
Yeah,
he didn't make it, but he got consideration. And who even talks about him on the Nets?
Well, the funny thing is, Coach, of the big 3, he's played the most games.
Right. That's why I considered him and not Harden.
Kyrie's played more games than Jimmy Butler. He's been excellent this year. And again, it's what we say about this team all the time. When things break down, and look, I need someone who can hit a contested mid-range shot. They got 3, maybe the 3 best dudes in the world who can do that. That's a plus to have. That's, it helps you.
Yeah, no doubt. So, all right, you want to talk about the difference? We have some other things so we can get to at the end, but you want to get into a deeper dive into why set it up, why regular season is so different than postseason.
Yeah. So we hear this all the time, right? People who's around the game, you hear playoffs is so different than regular season. It's like a player will tell you it's 2x or 2.5x, right? And I want to look at it beyond the obvious, right? Beyond the fact that you're playing the same team 7 times or best out of 7, so you know what they're running, and the study. What is it about the way in which players focus, lock in, that makes obviously, of course, the stakes are higher. I don't want to go home and end my season. I want to win a championship. I get that. But from a coaching, as tactical strategy, what is so different, right? The one thing I look at a lot of times is coaches, and Henry loves to talk about this. You're never going to get fired and you're in a playoffs and you give the ball to your best player, right? Because whether it works out or not, there's nothing for the media to attack you for. Oh, this is your best guy. He should bail you out. But we know that if you do other things, right, you run stuff, you do, that actually makes it better for you, because now that makes the defender think about things, right? Like even in isolation against the best players in the world, in theory, it's an easy thing to do, right, Coach? Because, well, nothing else is happening. All I know is I've got to lock in on the man in front of me. Nothing else matters. But if other stuff happens, shit, that might cause paralysis. Fuck, I made the wrong mistake. I was supposed to cut out here, and oh no, now we're screwed. Wide open three. Like, so let's talk about the differences between just regular season, second night of a back-to-back in, Cleveland versus, no, you're playing fucking Lakers now. You gotta be on your P's and Q's.
So first of all, you cited something that is definitely conventional wisdom, and I'm going to push back on it a little bit. Dwayne Casey got fired just getting the ball to his stars. I understand your guys' point that if you make a safer play, you're not going to turn the ball over nearly as much as if you try to run something, and so they're not going to fire you for that. It doesn't seem so stupid. It's not like punting on third down because you think I'd just rather have the ball and play defense. But so think of it this way. When I saw the document, I started thinking, how can I best explain it? I'm going to do it like this. So imagine the playoffs is a big stew. So think of a big stew. So let's throw in everything you said just now. All right. I only have to worry about one opponent, as opposed to I play 4 games this week in 7 days. I just have to worry about this one opponent. That goes in the stew, right? I don't have to travel to a lot of different places. I know I'm home for these games. I'm away for these. My life got simpler. I'm going to throw that in, right? You mentioned the stakes are higher. That's important for focus. I'm going to put that in the stew, right? And then game to game. So I played game 2, and these things fucked me up. They ran this. They slipped this screen this time. I was expecting them to use the screen. I could go on and on. All right. After game 3, game 4, they kind of run out of options. I know all the things they might do. There's different reads to every action, but I know all those reads, and I know what's going to happen. So I put that in the stew. So the stew is just a whole lot of things that help players lock in on one kind of a single-minded focus, right? And that's an all external. That's me reacting to the environment. Now do the same thing with a different stew, and it's all in-house. So here's what we're going to do. We know they like to do these things, so we're going to do this. Our counters. Here's our cues for that counter. We know their calls. That obviously helps. We always know their calls, but you don't remember them because you had 3 other games this week to play, right? So all those things go in. And this was MVJ last year. It'll be better this year. I'm a quarterback on defense, so I'm Jokic. Hey, if I yell this, you know what it means now, because we just talked about this. They did this the last 2 games. And so there's a degree of familiarity that makes a difference, right? You have to factor in stress. Mm-hmm. We all react differently to stress, that trauma. Mm-hmm. Losing a game sucks, but you play the next night, and you're guaranteed to play next week in the regular season. In the postseason, that shit stays with you longer. Right. So I just had this conversation with my daughter the other day about like in life, we have to have short memories, short-term memories. Long-term memory is fine. So we fuck up. You better put that in so you don't screw it up down the road a year or 2. But you can't live day to day all emotional over a bad thing that might happen to you. Shit happens. She got a job as a waitress. She got a couple of jobs, looks like, and she's going to get yelled at. Whatever, short-term memory like a quarterback in football, right? Or anyone guarding Jokic's teams. Because you're going to get beat for backdoors that you're like, I had him covered, but he is freaking hyper-accurate with his passes and super good at seeing down the road 2 seconds. It's unfair. So he sees what's coming and you get beat. You don't know how you do it. You got to have a short-term memory about all that kind of stuff. But it's easier said than done. And so if you're not sure what I mean by that, well, just watch the Warriors play with Steph Curry, because no one freaks out more than people guarding Steph Curry.
Yes.
So you know it's going to come. You know they're going to run a pin-in action. Draymond's going to get the ball at the elbow. He's going to kick it out and then pin in whatever. And then you're going to freak out because you're so worried about Curry to do something, and they're going to get a wide open layup because you're freaked out, even though you knew it was coming. Now, how do you handle that? Do you just stay measured, defend it better the next time? Yeah, then you're going to be much better off. You freak out, bad things happen. So all those things tie in, and they're human beings. They're not machines. Yep. So they react differently to all those things in the stew, right? So to finalize it, the game's best postseason players really get nourishment from that stew. And the players that have disappointed don't. Like Paul, it's a very complex stew. You could argue Paul George has not been nourished nearly as well by that stew over the years than maybe other players have, right? And then you also factor in fatigue for the course of the season. That's in the stew too. Mm-hmm. I don't know that Harden will be so tired this year.
Right.
That's the good news for the Brooklyn Nets. Mm-hmm. He's been worn out before, right? Curry maybe tired. He's had to do an awful lot, right? So all those things kind of go into the. And then the last thing I'll say is coaches. Yeah. I think coaches panic. Mm-hmm. I think I don't think Spoelstra panics. No. I think Quinn Snyder's panicked before. I think he's panicked, and this year he's playing 9 guys every game. And because they have so many blowouts, 10, 11 guys. And that's before he got hurt. Mitchell and Conley, even after they got hurt, he didn't change. He started playing Mia Oni from Yale and Trent Forrest from Florida State. They're getting minutes, good minutes. So what happens now in the postseason if his guys get healthy? Does he go back to his original 9, which was crushing everybody? Or does he start tightening it up, which I think he will, at his detriment? Because it was that big rotation that really helped his team. So the coaches that are confident in their belief system and their rotation, I think are better served.
Yeah, I love that stew analogy, Coach. I love cooking, so it's a bouillabaisse. All the different things are in there. I think the Spo and Quinn Snyder comparison, I think, is so apropos. And you can't tell everything by body language, but you can see it. Like, Quinn stresses out during it. And you can
wide-eyed.
He's manic all the time. And Spo's like you just, all right, play happen. Like, I'm like, cool. And I think that matters. Coaching matters, as you say, at this point, right? Because in the East, now I'm not saying that like Spo's like going to dominate every coaching matchup, but I think as the Heat as a team go into every matchup, they feel pretty confident about the guy they have on the sidelines. Certainly when they play the Bucks, they're not worried about Bud. They're like, nah, we got this, right? Like, I think they feel really comfortable about the fact that Spoelstra can make adjustments and change things and say, all right, this isn't working. Let's go to X, right? And so much of that, I think, from the head coach down to your most important player on the floor, which is why I love a guy like Chris Paul so much. Doesn't mean Phoenix is going to win the West or whatever. But you put the ball in Chris Paul's hands 9 out of 10 times, Coach, you're going to get something good happening on offense, right? And you're not going to make the shot 9 out of 10 times, but you're going to run a good action. You're going to get into a set that works for you. And having that level of calm on the floor in these matters, as you say, with the stew, that matters. Dudes that panic, disaster, because that's going to just permeate everywhere. The Nuggets have such an advantage. Jokic never flustered. Got the ball. It's like, all right, he's just holding it up here like bully ball. Like, yeah, you guys, you want this? Whatever. Like, you know, he might be. I want to talk about Jokic. I don't really know who Nick Wright is. I really don't have any idea who he is. I just know he's a name. He's a name that I see a lot. I don't know where he appears. Yeah, we'll get it. Yeah, he's a Fox Sports host for First Things First, and he's a LeBron acolyte. I'll just go there, and then after you finish your point, we'll get into.
Okay, so but I guess he said somewhere that Jokic would be the worst MVP.
Yeah,
I don't know what he's talking about. Jokic is an incredible player. I think as a rookie, he had a PER of over 20.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he was a very overweight, by 70 pounds. So he's incredible. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer that may not be done winning MVPs. Don't think for 1 second he can't win more. As your boy MPJ and Jamal Murray and okay, when you're the best player on the best team, you might win more. Let's face it. But what he is most underestimated about or underappreciated about is his ability to get buckets. This guy has a floater like no big man I've ever seen. It is unfair. Let's be clear. If you want to know what it's like to be a big man in the NBA, go play an 8-foot basket because it's easier. For sure, it's easier. because they're shooting it so much less. So the ball doesn't have so much power, hits the rim, and rolls around and goes in all the time for him. But it's still not an easy shot when you're guarded by another 7-footer. He's got the floater game. He's got a bully ball game. Jesus. I thought I turned this off. It keeps ringing. He's got the 3-point game. The guy's got everything and is this great passer too.
Excellent.
He's not the defensive player you want him to be. All right. He's okay. He's not amazing. But the idea that he's somehow a slouch, sorry, you don't understand the game of basketball. You think this guy isn't worthy of the MVP, just on the face of it, or bigger picture that he's a super talented player, because he is.
Yeah. So I'm with you 100%. And Nick was actually on our good buddy Tom Habishaw's pod with a meme this week. So Nick, first of all, is actually a pretty smart guy, and he is the lead host on First Things First on Fox Sports. This is something that I talk about all the time on Twitter about all these shows. Skip and Shannon, First Things First, First Take with Max and Stephen A, all that crap. Shows that I don't watch. The reason why I know about them is because people put clips on your Twitter timeline.
Yeah.
The purpose of these shows is to get everyone on social media yelling and arguing about something. That is their goal. So on Monday, they'll say something like, Nikola Jokic might be having the best season of a big man in the history of the NBA. Then on Wednesday, Nikola Jokic is the worst player since. That is the point. To contradict themselves day to day, get you pissed off, and start yelling on the internet. It's working. So I'm like, guys, don't fall for the game. It's the okie doke. Just leave it alone. Now, his point about Jokic, which I disagree with, was that, and he actually made some interesting points about, when everyone was healthy, LeBron and all these, Jokic was fourth. And now all of a sudden those guys aren't playing, you're saying he's the best. So his point is well, if that's the case, if you look at all the previous MVPs that's won over the past 30 years, it's not saying, so Nick's point was he'd be the worst. He's like, that's like saying, in a room full of billionaires, someone's the poorest. They're all billionaires, but someone's the poorest. And it's that was his point. So of all these great players, he is the worst of the great players. But if you're the worst of the great players, you're still fucking great, right? It's nitpicking and picking hairs, and it's done to get people excited. And he put CP3 as his MVP. Listen, I get it. It's all for theatrics and show.
That makes sense.
People fire up.
All right, let's get to. I told you this beforehand. I thought, you know what? We'll have a nice debate over first team All NBA, and then you sent me what you said on the podcast yesterday. I realized, we're not debating the first team because we agree. So I'm going to quickly say the first team that we both agree on, and then let's debate the second team. Okay. So we both have Curry and Dame as our guards. We both have Giannis and Luka as our forwards, because as I said off air to you, I don't even know to me, it's center and then ball. Center and ball player. Because all these guys are primary ball handlers.
Right.
All right. So Giannis and Luka, you could call them point guards. I'm just calling them basketball players. And then we have, of course, Jokic, because he's our MVP at center. So we both agree on that. I think we're super smart for that. Second team, to me, is a little more challenging. Give me your second team.
All right. I'm going with Embiid at center.
Okay, hold on. So we already disagree on that. Go on.
Yeah, you're going Rudy Gobert. I know.
Yeah.
At the forwards, and this is controversial, but I'm doing it anyway, I'm going teammates, Kawhi and Paul George at forwards. And as my guards, I'm going Chris Paul and Jimmy Butler.
So we got a couple things the same. I have Chris Paul and Butler also at guard. Like I said,
great minds think alike.
Yeah, and I've got Kawhi.
Yeah.
I've got Kawhi in there. So the difference is I have Zion above Paul George, and I don't think you're stupid for picking Paul George. If you look at my list, I have LeBron scratched out and then PG scratched out. So they initially made it, and then I'm like, wait a second, I think Zion deserves it. I looked it up, and Zion just, I think, had a little bit better year. His teams aren't as good, obviously.
Yeah.
The fact that LeBron's even in the running is extraordinary, considering he's played 43 games,
right,
or whatever the number it is. It's amazing. He might have been the MVP had he not got hurt. It's pretty crazy. But I picked Rudy. It's for really one reason. So we have that metric of earned wins for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
It is the combination of your production on the court times how much you played. And Rudy Gobert beats everyone but Jokic. So he ain't better than Jokic, and he's definitely got to be a center. And so I have him over Embiid, my clear number 3. I have Clint Capella number 4. Whoa. Although Bam Adebayo could probably be more of a 4 or 5. So I could maybe put them both on third team if I did a fourth team rather. yeah, to me, Rudy deserves it. You're not stupid for having Joel. People think Joel might be MVP. So he certainly should be on the second team.
He might have been.
We agree on Jimmy Butler because I don't even know how to evaluate Jimmy Butler. He's just a baller, like all these guys. He's a baller.
Well, I'll tell you how I evaluated Jimmy Butler, Coach. I know this. When he plays, the Heat fucking win.
Yeah,
when he don't, they lose. I was like, well, that got to mean something. So he's on my second team. And, as far as the LeBron point, you made 43 games. Well, Harden also played 43 games.
Yeah.
So it was really hard. I'm just going to give you my third team really quick.
Yeah.
So obviously, Gobert is my center there. My forward spots, Zion got my one forward spot. I went Julius Randle. I was like, this guy's, he's got to get good. And here are my guards. Cheated here. LeBron James is a guard because whatever. He's like, And then Kyrie Irving. Look, I get it. Like, people feel kind of way about Kyrie. I watch this dude day in and day out. When he's on the floor, I'm like, this dude is fucking incredible, man. Like, and of the big three, he's played the most games. Played more games than Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, no, he's on my third team, and I got PG and LeBron on my third team, Randall and MB. So we're all more or less around the same 15. Kyrie is the one that catches me. I'm rooting for him, man. I'm rooting for him. He has a lot going on in his mind. His big brain has a lot of things. It's a blessing to be less complicated as a thinker.
Yeah.
I know this because my first 30 years I was a dumbass. And life was very all puppy dogs and ice cream for me. When I started thinking about the world, I realized, man, there's a lot of dark skies going on. But Kyrie has the weight of the world on his shoulders. And so we talk about making that stew. I hope he can forget about it and just because they're can be really fun to watch. Although, people think, I think Caleb even put in our chat, are the team to beat if they're healthy. I just think playoffs are harder than that. I really do. Yeah. I picked them to win last year in June. I don't pick them now. We'll see how they look. I feel the same way about the Nets, Jarod. They've had all season to figure out how to play defense. I just don't think you can figure it out so fast. I might be wrong. We'll see. I don't think they have a great head coach for defense.
No.
I don't think they prioritize it that much. I tell you what, if they're going to lose in a series, it's going to be a hell of a series because they're going to score a bunch of points. So it'll be a lot of scoring. Bet the over, whatever that number is going to be.
I mean, that's the thing. You're never shutting down. Like, it's Blake Griffin said this after he played Giannis during that mini series, and like you don't stop these kids. KD, Harden, no, they're going to do what they do. Your goal is, can I make you less efficient doing it? That's your win, is the defense.
That's right.
All right. You got 35, but it took you 28 shots. Cool.
Yeah.
Win.
Yeah.
That's it, because they're going to get theirs, and that's your goal. Over the course, are they inefficient for the series? Then you got a shot to win. If they are efficient, you're screwed. That's really.
I do think there's a point to that, Jarod. I do think that when you're playing against, we're going to talk about this starting next week with the playoffs, that trio, there's so much pressure on you to score. I don't know how teams are going to handle that. Not the first round, second round and beyond. They've got to stay disciplined. It's a message when I talk to NBA players. It's probably the word I use the most, other than maybe energy, is you've got to stay disciplined to the plan, because what happens is they panic because they know KD and Harden and Kyrie are just they're gonna keep getting great shots. It doesn't mean they'll make them. They're gonna make plenty, but they'll keep getting them. It's hard to really slow them down. And if you do, then Joe Harris is wide open, or Claxton's dunking, or whatever. And so you've got to stick with your plan on both ends. If you start panicking and start trying to make 4-pointers, you're in trouble, and they're going to beat you easier. You got to stay with the process and hope you get to 6-7 games against them. And you might get them. You're not gonna beat them in 4. Mm-hmm. And so that's where LeBron's always been so amazing. Is I just think teams don't play great against him. You know where I got that from? That's the Tiger Woods syndrome.
Yep.
Right. The average round in the guy playing with Tiger on Sundays was horrible when he was at his peak. He didn't have to play his best. You were not at yours. He doesn't have to apologize for that.
He forced you to try to match him. That's not your game.
No.
You got to play what you do.
Right.
You're down through, as you mentioned. Now I'm going for the green and 2. Why?
Yeah.
Because he puts no. What's your game plan? You do you. Don't worry about this dude. Same thing with these guys. Don't overreact when they hit.
I think so.
Big shots. stick to your plan.
I think so. Same as when you're
done, of course.
Same as when you're playing the Lakers. You don't assume you're playing the champion Lakers from October. You're playing the team. You're playing the 2021 version. They're not as good. And if you play your game, you put more pressure on them to play their game, and they might still beat you. But if you don't play your game, you're probably not going to play very well. And now the pressure's off of them. They can beat you subpar, and that's the mistake you'll make. So yeah, next week we'll be talking playoffs.
Get ready, folks. Next week we're going to be in the playoffs on Monday with Henry, and then Friday we're going to be. We know the matchups. We're going to dive into it. Judy, thank you. Coach, thank you as always. Thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you on Monday. Have a good weekend.